Thanks for joining us for the executive series. Today I'm speaking with Nicholas Sims, who is the CEO of Bubs Australia. Nick, great to talk to you.
Hi Tom, good to see you again.
Particularly at a time when there's so much going on for the organisation. So you've just completed a capital raising. What I'm interested in is the sort of conversations that you would have been having with investors during the capital raising as you sought to raise the money. What were the key themes that come out of those conversations?
Yeah, certainly. I suppose the focus was really on what we were investing the money in, and I suppose most of that investment is going behind our China growth strategy and obviously the working capital requirements behind that. However, there was some additional discussions around us furthering our vertical integration of our goat milk supply and us actually capturing whey in the Australian marketplace to be able to add that to our integration and our pathway to provenance story.
Indeed. So let's focus on the building blocks of the Chinese strategy, because in terms of the elements in relation to supply, distribution, you know, the really important relationships in terms of electronic or digital execution, you've got important bases covered in that market, haven't you?
Yeah, well, we believe so. We're certainly embarking to be able to cover those. So we really focus on three key areas in the Chinese market. So we're worried about mother and baby stores, we're worried about the e-commerce, and then also the Daigou marketplace. So the Daigou marketplace is more around the Australian retail environment and genuine Australian products being available for the Chinese consumers to be able to ship to their family and friends, and we're starting to do a lot of work in that particular space. E-commerce tends to get a lot of headlines, and look, over the last sort of 12 months we've signed supply agreements with all the major platforms, whether that be NetEase, Koala, VIP, JD, and just recently Alibaba Tmall store actually went live. But also mother and baby I think is really important, because that is the biggest actually share of infant formula sales in China. And I suppose our recent announcement of our signing with QJWP, who's the largest infant formula distributor in the Chinese marketplace, gives us very good foundations once we achieve our CFDA approval from the Deloraine facility that we actually just announced as well.
Okay, so that's an important consideration, because we've seen how challenging it can be when that approval is perhaps stymied or coming down the pipe later than expected. When are you expecting that approval?
Yeah, sure. It is a process, and I think to be fair on all parties, the process that you need to go through to submit your application is quite laborious. So once that is submitted, it is really in the hands of the Chinese government. So we did see an initial number of brands actually get approval once they were submitted, sort of within the 3-month period. However, we have seen of late, I suppose, some of them starting to drag out a little bit longer, sort of 6 months plus. So really, once you've actually submitted all your paperwork and your submission, there is still a waiting process, which is sort of out of your hands. So, of course, some of our peers are still waiting for their approvals as well.
Now, it's one thing to have the building blocks in place, but it's another thing to be able to scale them and get the execution right. How are you placed in that regard when it comes to those elements in China?
Yeah, sure. And I think our partnerships and our agreements that we've actually just announced more recently. So if I focus on mother and baby store, we have the Bright Light originally that was supplying about 3,500 mother and baby stores. When you add on the QJWP, they service up to 80,000 outlets in China. So they are, very influential, especially around a sort of sweet spot of about 50,000 stores. We're not saying we want to be in all those 50,000 stores, but have the ability and the reach to actually execute in those stores is going to be paramount. And then I suppose the New Asia enables us to increase our in-market execution capabilities significantly more. I mean, anyone who's dealt with China knows China is always on, it doesn't sleep. And so it's really important to actually have a team that actually understands that and can execute that. And that's why we've just recently set up an office out of Shanghai as well.
So when it comes to infant formula providers, there's an overwhelming focus on China, but really the core of the business remains the domestic picture. On that front, the integration, the vertical integration is the main focus for you at the moment. How's that going?
Yeah, no, it's going really well. I mean, there is a process to go through. So everything from auditing of the farms and the manufacturing facilities in through to the trial productions of the infant formula base utilising our milk. So, we are well progressed with that. However, we see that that's going to be a major opportunity for us moving forward to give the Chinese consumer, and not just the Chinese consumer, consumers everywhere trust that they actually have visibility and transparency into the source of our milk.
Indeed. So the other important aspects of your strategic focus have been increased brand awareness and product development as well, which you've talked about in your recent presentations. How important are they as far as the foundations for growth in the next couple of years?
Yeah, no, really important because, Bubs is about giving parents that solution for that first 1,000 days of journey, and our specialty milk around our goat milk goes beyond that as well into fresh milks and yogurts. However, we've developed a range of organic baby cereals, which is the second largest category within the Chinese market after infant formula. And then you actually have other areas within that, I suppose, nutritional space. So whether that be a prenatal or a stage 4, those bits of NPD can actually give you some considerable scale fairly quickly as well.
And of course, a vital element of the entire picture, and nothing happens until the supply side of things is ironed out entirely. How would you describe your supply security in general when it comes to the goat herd in Australia and in New Zealand?
Yeah, well, we actually, I think from a security point of view, we have the exclusive rights for the milk supply, which is, a very good start. I think more importantly, we have the call options over those properties as well. So if there was to be regulatory change or requirement to actually have ownership on farm, we actually have that already written into our supply agreements. So that's really important. And I think, as we evolve, we've already grown our supply from when we last spoke. We've now got actively 12,000 plus goats actively supplying us milk. And that's actually giving us a whole milk supply which can scale our existing infant formula business quite considerably already.
So Nick, over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, what are the most important priorities for Bubs?
Yeah, look, we really need to end the year well, have a very solid June. I'd like to say, we're well on track to do that. So I'm very encouraged by the way that's coming along. The next phase will definitely be around starting the year off well, especially around our recent Chinese acquisitions. I mean, the ability to keep momentum, we've worked very hard to build it. We need to now execute upon that. So the execution of a China strategy and the completion of the integration of our milk supply, those are the three things that I think we really need to focus on in the short term.
Well, good luck with that, Nick. We look forward to getting an update later on in the year. Thanks.
Great, Tom. Thanks very much.
And thanks for joining us for the Executive Series.